So I promise this one is going to be a quick one. I promise. I promise. Because we've done a lot of long ones, videos recently. I think quite rightly so, because certainly of the nature of certainly the Pacific Partnership deserves a lot of big info dumps, and I think deservedly so. At the moment, I know myself, I want to try and find sort of very much sort of quicker ways to sort of trying to explain what the Progressive Partnership is to people, or the Pacific Partnership is to people, or the CPTPP, to give it its bit of acronyms, some of things why I always call it the Pacific Partnership, or the PP, again depending on your choice of vernacular, as they say. But what we're talking about today, well, many of you may remember well, back in what, September, October, I was constantly raising the alarm bell that, look, we know we're entering cost of living crisis, and certainly the energy crisis that was very much clearly on the horizon at that point was going to be a big problem for a whole lot of people in the UK. But more worryingly, of course, was the fact of what this energy crisis was going to do to businesses. Because we were seeing the energy prices for people, or at least, your average person was rising, 60, 70%. But for businesses, it was going over 100%. And at that point, imagine if you're a restaurant. Restaurants were the number one prime example we were using, or a cafe. Well, you've got to use your energy to cook, and not just cook. You've got to use your refrigerator constantly. Is going to be on all the time. There was concerns about tech businesses who have servers, who have to run those servers 24/7. They have to be on all the time. There were a ton of businesses that have constant energy outputs, and yet their bills were rising exponentially faster than even your average household. Now, don't get me wrong, the average household bills, again, are still pretty high. And it is right to sort of worry about that. But we do have to worry about businesses, because if businesses start to close because of this, this could have a big knock-on effect for the country. And once again, it's not going to be the big businesses that this affects. This is going to be affecting the SMEs, the small, medium enterprises that, as we've said before, make up 80% of all business British infrastructure in the UK. So, again, before we go looking into this, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and an donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And of course, as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. So, this is a massive concern. This is a massive concern for businesses. If you go and talk to businesses at the moment, energy is a big one, especially if they've got things that have got to be on all the time. If you're an IT company and you've got servers and you're running your own servers, well, then you've got to run them constantly all the time. They've got to be on 24/7, because people might need to access their data whenever. So you've got to have them on all the time. There's, again, the kitchens with having the walk-in freezers. Those freezers could be on all the time, because obviously they've got to keep the food frozen. There's so many businesses. There was not just too long ago in Barnsley, there was the whole thing about the gym, that early mornings it was not turning on its heating, and then of course the whole energy sort of the government finally managed to step in for businesses. It was not turning on its heating, or it was only turning it on at specific times for certain lengths, and then the rest of the time the gym was absolutely freezing cold. This is a big, massive problem. I unfortunately don't think gets enough attention, because I think it's on business, and people just think, oh well, if it's affecting businesses, then it's not really that much of an issue. But it is, because some of the stories that we get about this are really, really shocking. Because at the moment, if we look at what this is, and this is being described as brutal of how much it is going to be or how much this is going to come in, this could drive energy bills for companies up as high as 133%. Once the support ends this weekend, which hopefully, maybe something will be reversed, maybe something will be brought in. I don't know. I don't know how we do it. But this is a quote from a laundry business. And this is what they had to say about this. We've already had to put our prices up by 25%, which means some customers who would come in to do laundry every 1 to 2 weeks are now waiting to wash only once a month. We can't put our prices up anymore. We know that many customers are vulnerable and are feeling squeezed, and we just can't squeeze them anymore. And this is just how it's going for some of these businesses. If they've had to put the prices up, but there comes a point where you've got a cost of living crisis, and if you put your prices up to try and compensate for the energy crisis, at what point do people stop spending? And it gets even worse for village pubs and pubs in particular. Another example of again a business that pretty much has like a constant running energy cost. Remember, many of these pubs are still trying to recover from COVID. And this is, again, a quote from a pub. He said, "We won't be here for long. At the moment, we're putting our own money into the pub to try and keep it going, but it will fail. It's just a matter of how long we're willing to go on. And there are pubs that are going under every day. Soon we'll be back to the 90s when tenants were just leaving their keys behind." So this is really going to be bad. And it's going to hit the small and medium sized businesses mostly. And there is a bit of support, but the problem is it's not enough. And it's not enough to help these small and medium sized companies. And there has already been a campaign trying to set up and start to sort of help this out. And this is what they had to say about this. He said, "The government seems to be showing partial concern, but that's a red herring." The organizer said, "I sat in a restaurant the other day and I realized it was cold and dimmer than usual. Then I realized they were trying to save energy. Anyone who can do these things has already started. The hospitality sector is currently facing a 7.3 billion pound hike in energy bills." And the chief executive of UK Hospitality had this to say about it as well. "The energy crisis has completely suffocated businesses over the past year, causing thousands to fail and forcing many millions to take drastic measures to try and afford the extortionate energy bills." So this is going to be a big problem. And just as I warned last year, if the government didn't properly step in to help, there would be thousands of small business closures. And now, potentially, when we're looking at this, and they've stepped in, but again, the help isn't enough, especially for this small and medium enterprise and these small medium companies. It's just not enough for them. So, how many, do these pubs, shops, and independent stores do you see closing if this help doesn't come or arrive? It's really not a good sign. And for, again, a party that is meant to be helping to support British businesses. Once again, they are not there when the call is being sent out that they need help. So it's a very worrying time for a lot of business people. It's a very, very worrying time for a lot of business people. I can absolutely see why. when you see their energy bills. And it's very, very worrying because it's going to have a massive knock-on effect for the economy, especially if you see lots go under, or at least a continuing amount go under a long staying period of time. It's going to be very worrying indeed. But as always, thank you very much for watching, and of course, we'll see you all next time.